Creating and debugging Python Lambda functions step by step. Hello everyone, my name is Ankush Jain, and in this video I will show you how you can build a Python based Lambda function from scratch in your Visual Studio Code, how you can debug it and how you can deploy it to AWS Lambda. So this is going to be a very interesting video and I will show you everything from scratch. I mean, there are multiple ways to build AWS Lambda functions. Like you can build, you can use AWS CDK, you can use AWS SAM CLI, but I'm not going to use those tools. But here I will just explaining how you can build it entirely from scratch, and you will learn the concept how these Lambda function works. So let's start, and here is a sneak peek of about what you are going to learn out of this video. So first we will learn how we can set a Python environment on our local development machine, and if you know that already you can skip that part. Then we will create an IAM role for Lambda function, and there are three types of Lambda functions we are going to build in this video. First would be very simple hello world Python Lambda function, which would be a single file. The second Lambda function, where we will be utilizing AWS SDK, we will be kind of creating a file in AWS S3 bucket. Then in the third, we will also I will also show you if you have third party dependencies, third party packages, and also you want to use AWS SDK as you need to interact with AWS services, then how you can build that type of Lambda function. So these three types of Lambda function will cover almost every kind of scenario that you are going to have in future. And yeah, obviously we'll see how you can package these kind of Lambda functions. All right, so let me close this, and first let me start with setting up the Python environment. So I'm using Windows, but I think the steps would be similar to Mac or Linux PCs as well. So first we have to install Python from the installer. So uh, I know this would take little time, but if you have the environment already set up, then you can skip this section and you can jump to the next section from for creating IAM role for the Lambda functions. All right. So for installing the Python, you have to just Google and search Python download, and you will go here, and here you will go Python, download Python. And uh, okay, it is downloaded, the exe is downloaded, and let me go look at Python again. View full list of downloads, download the latest version of Python. Okay, I mean, let's start with this exe which is already downloaded on my machine. So you will see a similar setup, and make sure that you just use this add Python exe to path, which will basically add this installed Python on your environment variable in path, so that you can access Python directly from your command line. All right, use admin privileges while installing Python, and now just click on install now. So it will give you a pop-up, and just press yes, and the setup, it will start downloading the Python and installing on your machine. So I'm just pausing my video and will resume once it is done. I don't think it would take much time, so let's wait here. Meanwhile, we see what is the next step. Okay, so install Python extension in VS Code. So I'm going to use VS Code for the development. So meanwhile, let's install the Python extension here. So you just need to search, go into the extension and search for Python, and you will see the first extension which is built by Microsoft, and you just need to go and install it here. So what it will do, it will install a couple of extensions in background. So you see it is also installing the Python debugger, which is also getting installed when you are installing this. So yeah, I mean, Python language support will be installed, Python debugger will be installed, and you will get all the intelligence while developing or while working with the Python, and you will also be able to debug the Python files. So the installation is completed. I am not going to create any file for now, and I will close this and I will just go to this. Also, setup for successful, Python is installed. So let me close this, and what I can do, I can show you one thing which I would like to show. So here we'll go in this PC, I will go in properties, and in properties, in advanced system settings and environment variables, in path, I want to see the Python is added. Yeah. So you can see these two variables are now added, not variables, sorry, these two paths are added here. Python uh, 3.12, 3.12 version, and this is the part to script folder, and another is the part to this particular folder. So what will happen basically if I close this and I again close this and I open command prompt cmd and run Python, so I can verify the Python is installed or not. So you can see the Python is installed and you are good to go. Okay, let me close this and also see we have installed Python extension here. So we are almost done with the step one where we have set up our environment for the Python development. Second thing, because we are going to develop a Lambda function, we have to create a role for Lambda functions. So Lambda function in AWS is something, a function that runs inside a compute, but a Lambda role is something which is a permission, which would be required by that Lambda function. So what we are going to do, we are going to go in IAM and in role, and here we are going to create a role. So I will create a role which is, so first step is to select. Okay, if I'm too fast, so let me go. So here role, click on create role, select AWS service, and the service you have to choose is AWS Lambda because this role would be assumed by AWS Lambda. Next, click on next, and here you have to look for a policy which I have, I guess, specified here, AWS Lambda basic execution role. So you have to look for this managed policy, and this is AWS managed policy. You don't have to do anything, so just select it, and if you want to see the permissions, you can expand it and see. So what it does, it basically create a log group, and it has the permission to create a log group, log stream, and put the log events there. So we'll see how the log events are logged, but as of now just select this policy and click next, and here I will name it Ankush Lambda function, or we'll call it Python Lambda function demo, and we'll also add a role. Okay, so this is a simple role that we have created, and I'm going to just go below and click on create role. The Lambda role has been created, and we have to just make sure that this name is stored somewhere. So I'm just, storing it here. Anyway, so we are done with the step two. Now we are going to create our first Lambda function, and we are going to do it in two ways. First, we will develop it in console, AWS console, and second, we are going to develop it on our local Visual Studio Code. So first step is to develop in console, and what I'm going to do, I'm going to go to my console and search for the Lambda, and here this is my Lambda console, and I have couple of Lambda already which I have created for one of my application, but that okay, that's fine. So we'll go here and click on create function, and here you will just you see multiple option. You want to author from scratch, you want to use a blueprint. For the timing I'm using a blueprint, but I mean authoring is from scratch is not a big deal. We'll also see how we can do that in next step. But if you use blueprint, what it will do, it will basically provide you a Lambda function code which is already there. So we'll just select hello world in Python, and once we do it, what should we name it? Okay, just name it hello world function. Hello world function, remove the space, and what it will do, and here execution role. So here just select the role which we have created. So I will select Python Lambda function demo role. Now, okay, now what does this blueprint is doing? It is just providing this code which we don't have to write. It is explicitly providing us this code. So just saving that effort from writing this code, I am using blueprint. Otherwise you can just copy this code and go create from scratch, and you can just put that code there. All right, so I will just use, sorry, I will just go and create function. So you can see the function has been created successfully, and you have created your first Lambda function in Python. Now this time to execute. So okay, so few things I would like to tell before I just press test or execute it. So this is a Lambda function, this is a directory, and you are able to see the code in code source. So this is the directory, and which is having the same name as your function name. This is the Lambda function Python file, and there is a function, actual function, which is called as Lambda handler. How does it gets executed? So if you see, sorry, yeah, let me open it. So if you see, just scroll below, you will see the handler. So this handler basically tells uh, which exactly the method or function I need to invoke. So this is Lambda function dot Lambda handler. That means Lambda function is the name of the file, which is a module, and the function that it has to execute. All right. So this is the one thing. The second thing I want to kind of uh, tell you like how these things execute. So important one. So I have noted it here, how JSON input events are received. So all right, okay. So okay, let's have a look. So if you see here, let me open it. You see, this is an event. This Lambda handler has two things. One is the context, another is event. Or event is something, is any input parameter that we have to pass to this Lambda function. So we can pass integer, we can pass string, or we can pass list, or we can, most usually we pass JSON object. And when we pass the JSON object to this Python Lambda function, that object is considered as a dict type. Dict is a data type, which is dictionary data type in Python. So this event is, when it is received by the Lambda handler, it is a dict object, and we have to kind of access the properties. So the JSON has been converted to a dict object, and we have to kind of access the properties in this way: event and the key. So the JSON that we have to test it. So I will show you how. So this is a JSON which has three properties: key value, key value, key value. So this would be converted as a dictionary, and we have to access the events as a dict manner here that we have accessed. And that is what I was pointing here. It is usually Python dict type. So the first argument is event object, and it is usually of Python dict type. It can be list, string, integer, float as well. Okay, so this is a dict type when you are passing the JSON. Otherwise it would be the same as you're passing. Second thing I would like to call out here is how you want to return. If you want to return the JSON response, how would you return? So you have to, remember. So for example, if you go here back, and if you return just a string, that is fine. If you want to return a number, uh, that is also fine. But if you want to return a JSON object, then you have to use this JSON dot dumps, I guess. Yeah. So you have created a JSON, or sorry, you have created dictionary in Python, and you want to return a JSON. So you have to just encapsulate that in JSON.dumps, and then you have to return it. So these are the two things, how you can accept input JSON and how you can return JSON. So you have to remember when while working with the Python Lambda functions. All right, so we have created this, and I want to test it. So I will go in test tab, and I will just, I see this event JSON already. I will format it. It is already formatted. I will just press test button, and the function is executed, and I can see the value 1. And if you see the function, so it is basically printing the key 1. So that's how you have created your first Lambda function. And I will also show you a quick examples here of the Lambda function, which is a simple Lambda function. So you can see this is another example. This is simply a Lambda function handler. And if we'll go down, so this is another Lambda function which is kind of returning a JSON here. And inside body, they are returning, they are using JSON.dumps. Okay, you can see here. Now, what we are going to do, we are going to build a Lambda function on our local, and we'll see how we can debug it. And that is the important part, because you are not going to develop the Lambda function in console. You will basically write those functions in your local machine. So what we are going to do, we are going to just have I found one function here which I was thinking to use in this demo, which is just returning a value. Let me have a look. Examples. yeah, so this is returning a calculation. So what we are going to do, we are just going to, okay, so first we have to create a directory. So I will go here and I will create a directory here, and I will name it Python lambda functions. And what I will do, I will open this directory here. So sorry, open folder. Okay, so here I will, okay, I trust, I will close this. So here I will create my first lambda function and I will call it like increment function. I will create this file, increment function. So increment function dot py. And what I will do, I will go back here and will copy this function. So what essentially it is doing, this function is just doing, this just an example function which is basically taking an event, reading the action property, and if it is increment, then it is reading the number and incrementing the number by 1. And this is a lambda function. Now you have to debug it, because if you are doing the development on your local machine, you will write the function in Visual Studio Code, but before deploying it to AWS, if you want to debug it, how would you do it? So I will place a breakpoint here and will just do certain things in order to debug it. So we have to go here in Run and Debug tab and just click on Create a launch JSON file. And if I click on Create a launch JSON, I will get I will get a list of the debuggers and I will select the Python debugger. Okay, so we'll select the debugger, and here I will select Python file with arguments, because we want to run this file with arguments. So what it will do, it will basically generate a launch JSON file, and which would be placed inside .vs code folder. All right, and let's quickly understand this launch JSON file. So what it is doing, it is saying that the type is debug py. So type is basically the type of debugger that is going to be used when you are going to launch this application or launch this file. So the your you will be basically go, you will select your Python file, and then you will press F5 button. So what will happen when this file is selected, it will consider that file. Here this is a dollar, and there's a file. So what does it mean? It means that your current file will be selected as a program, and that file will be sent to debug py. And then a debugger, this file is basically launched by debug py, and a debugger it attached in Visual Studio, sorry, Visual Code. So this is how the debugging works. And now we have to basically, you have to remember, you can't just go here and press F5. If you do it, it will ask those questions, but it is basically asking for the arguments, because we have added this args. So that's why if you press F5, it is going to ask you this, and if you do it, then nothing would happen, because that is not a Python file. So what you have to do is, okay, so you see the file is, it says the error. So what you have to do is just remove this, and I will press Ctrl J to hide it, and just select it and run F5 here. And I know that this is not going to work, but I just want to show you. Okay, so what it is doing, okay, so the lambda handler, I got the breakpoint, but I won't get the breakpoint inside it. So if I do F10, then it exited. So the file, then, so what it is doing, it is executing the Python. It is using Python, and then Python is basically uh, using debug py, and then debug py is passed this file as an argument, increment function, and then this is the argument that we are passing to this file. So you don't have to worry. What you have to do is just go on this file, which I will provide a link of this web page, and you just have to add this line of code. And what it will do, it will basically, so when you run this file, this code block will be executed first. And let me add import the namespace as well. So now what will happen when I run this file? The file will come here, the breakpoint, this will be executed, and now I'm calling my lambda handler from this place. So this is just for your debugging purpose. You don't have to keep this part when you are going to deploy this package to AWS Lambda. So now what I will do, I will just press F5, and now, okay, I will press F5 and I just leave it empty. So you see, I got the breakpoint, and in the system.arguments, I am getting 2 0. The first argument is the file name, and the second argument is the argument that I'm going to pass. So what I'm going to do here, it failed because I didn't pass a valid argument. So let me stop it, and then let me pass a valid argument or valid event. And the valid event for this would be, we have to copy the event from here because we copied this lambda function. This is our valid event, and now this valid event will not work as it is when we are working when we are debugging on local. So what we have to do is we have to go to this JSON formatter website and kind of just put it, format it, sorry, let minify. So you got the minified version, and now you have to go down and you have to just go to JSON escape, and you have to run the escape. So you have to copy this, and now what you have to do is press F5 and just put the double quotes and put entire escaped string here. Sorry, I have to do it again. So I have to put double quotes, and now I am hitting enter. And once I hit enter, I got this. The event is again getting the issue. Why? Uh, Let me see. Okay, let me stop and let me see why I'm again getting this issue. So let me put F5, and I should not be getting. Okay, JSON dots. Let me see the arguments. All right. Mm-hmm. Ideally it should work, but let's try again. And now we don't provide uh, the double quotes, so we are just providing it as it is. So let me run this with this way, and so it worked. And you see I got the event here, and now I'm getting the action, I'm getting the increment as an action, and I'm getting the event for which is the value that I am passing. And here you see I'm getting the response, and the response would be this. Okay, so I would press F5, and you have successfully executed and debugged your lambda function, right? uh, so yeah, I mean, this is how you can kind of do the debugging of your lambda function on your local environment. All right, so I have also provided the steps of how to generate the event, and how to escape the special characters, also how to debug. So I have provided all the steps here, and if you want to learn more about the launch.json file, then you can just go through this link which I have provided here. So you can go to this Visual Studio Code documentation and learn more about it, and also provided the file which was generated. So if your file is not matching with the one that I generated, then you can copy it from here as well. Now we'll see how to package and deploy this. So as you see, this is a plain simple lambda function which doesn't have, which is not using AWS SDK, which is not using any third-party dependency. So you can just go and just paste it in your lambda console. That is the one way, but that is not a good way. Another is way is to just go to this folder and this increment function. So you can just create a zip file of this, and okay, this is the increment function. No, what I will do, I will go here and I will just upload this zip. So I will just go here and I will upload the zip file, and the moment I upload the zip file, now you see the increment function is there. And if I test it, it won't work. It won't work. And the reason, because the handler name is now changed, unable to import Lambda function. Earlier, the file name was Lambda function, but now it has changed to increment function. So what I have to do is I have to go here and update the file name. So increment function, I have to update it. Now if I go and test it, it will work. So it worked, right? So the result is null, but it worked. And if I provide the valid argument, so if I provide this as an argument, sorry, so I just have to go down, provide this value. Now I will get a valid result 4. Yeah, I got the proper value 4. So we are done with this step. I mean, first type of Lambda function which we created. We created in AWS console. We created it our locally, and we also you also see that how we can debug this function. You also see how we can deploy this Lambda function to AWS. Now going back. We are going to create another Lambda function, and this time we are going to kind of use AWS SDK. So we are going to create a Lambda function which will basically create a file in S3 bucket. And remember, now since as of now we created this function which is not using any third party package, so this time we are going to use Boto3, which is an external package, which Boto3 is the name of the AWS SDK. Okay, so with Boto3 you can access all the services of AWS. It is kind of the name of Python SDK for AWS. So yeah, Boto 3 is part of Lambda runtime, and one very good thing is you need to know is that if you are using Boto 3, then you would not need to deploy that or upload that package as part of your code, because this runtime, the where your this code is running. So if I go here and if I open this file, so where this code is running, if you import Boto 3, import Boto 3 and use the methods of Boto 3, then it will work, because where the compute where this function is running, the Boto 3 is already provided by AWS. So because it is AWS SDK and they do not want you to kind of push this dependency again and again with your code, because it would make your deployment package heavy, so you can kind of just use it and without importing it. All right, so we are going to do that. So what we are going to do is we are going to first create an S3 bucket, then we will modify our IAM role. We'll provide that Amazon S3 full access so that it could generate the file in our bucket, and then we will just uh, use this Lambda handler, and we'll see how does it work. So what we are going to do, we are first going to create an S3 bucket, and I will go here and I will just press S3 and open a new. Now I will create a new bucket. Okay, and I will just test Python Lambda demo bucket. I don't think this name would have been taken by anyone, so I will just go with the defaults and create the bucket. So the bucket has been created, and now I will go back to my IAM, and let me also copy the name of the bucket. So Python, because I would need it later. So I will, and now go to the IAM and modify the role. So Python, all right. So we'll just go here and add one more permission, attach policies, and here I will look for S3 full access. So you can go with the least privileged policies, but this is a demo and I don't want to get into there. So now these two policies are added, and the Python Lambda function role has ability or has permissions to create file on Amazon S3. Okay, so now what we are going to do, we are going to create a new function which is generate file function, And why I'm going to show how it is different from our previous function, because previous function was not using boto 3. So now this function is using boto 3. So I want to show you. And now this time we are going to generate from scratch, and I'm going to select this as Python 3.12 x86 and execution role. Yeah, I do not want to want this lambda role to be auto generated. I will select the one that we have created. So we'll select this and we'll create a function. The function is created, and now we are going to copy this function and just paste it. Sorry, let me close this. So what it is doing, it is basically again a function which is will read the file name which is from the event, and will also need to know the bucket name. So I will provide the bucket name from here. So the bucket name is this, and it is basically creating an S3 client, and then using put object function of the S3 client, and it will basically put and dump the entire event in the body, and will create a file with sample text in the bucket that we created. So this is very straightforward, but it is using boto 3, and that is the only thing I wanted to show. And another thing that we will see how we can deploy or how we can debug this function on our local machine. So because there we have to install boto 3 package, so that is an interesting one. So here we will just I will deploy it, and I have deployed it. Now I will go here and just test it. So this time we don't have to go to this JSON escaper, because we are in AWS console. We can just use our normal JSON, because this is a JSON that is having these characters. So I will have to remove these and remove these, and then I have to just click on format JSON. And once I do it and I test it, so let's see. And it is taking some time, and okay, it failed because of the timeout issue, and we have to update the timeout. Go here. The default timeout is 3 seconds, which is too less, and we can also update the memory if it is needed. So we just make it 256, and timeout I will put it 1 minute. Okay, now we're going to test it again with the same event, and now test. So the it took less time and file created successfully, and to verify it we can go back to S3 bucket and see the file is created or not. So let's see for in Python bucket, and you see the file has been created, and that is what I wanted to show you. Now we are going to develop this function locally. So we'll go here and we'll close this. So here is okay, I will delete this zip which is not needed, and I will close this, and I will create another file, and this time the file name would be something I will have to check. Develop locally, yeah. So the file name should be, yeah, this generate file function, not here. Sorry, I want to generate. Okay, so we have created another lambda function file here, and here I am going to copy that code. Okay, so I will copy this code from my, okay, I can copy it from lambda function directly. So I will copy, I will go paste it here. Okay, so now even if I want to debug it, I mean, in order to debug it I have to do it. So I will just go in, copy this from increment function which we created earlier, and go in uh, this file which is our newer file, and I just added it here, and I will import the sys which is not imported yet. So this is fine. Now if I run it, it will not work because it is complaining it cannot find the boto 3. And in order to work when we are using external dependencies on local machines, so we have to create an virtual environment. So that is the best practice, because and in that virtual environment we are going to install these dependencies. So what I'm going to do, I'm just opening this, and I have provided the steps to create a virtual environment, and I'm going to just follow that. So this is the step first. First, create a virtual environment and refer the below step by step creating virtual environment. So I will just scroll down and sorry, not this. So you have to run this command to create a virtual environment, and what it will do, you will see. Okay, Python was not found. Oh, maybe it is because we have opened the visual. We might have to reopen the Visual Studio Code. So we have to cmd code dot close this. Now we have to run that command to create a virtual environment. So now just ignore this. We'll close this, and now the command is working, and it will create a VNV. So you see, a virtual environment has been created here, and this is just I mean, so all the packages that you are going to install for this folder are going to be stored here in side packages here. And the reason of installing this or creating this virtual environment is all the pip command or python command are not now going to use your local python dependencies. You see in the scripts, you see the python executable is there, pip executable is there. So now we have to activate this environment so that the next time we run the pip command or python command, will be kind of using these executables. So for that, we have to run this command, and which is basically activating the virtual environment, which would basically run this executable batch file on Windows. And now our environment is activated, and you see the VNV is there. So now our environment is activated, and if I run the pip version, so you see it is basically the 24.2 version, which is coming from here, site packages.pip in Python Lambda functions, somewhere from here. All right, so we have activated our environment, and this is something another thing to make sure that environment is activated. Now what we have to do, we have to create a requirement.txt file. And it is needed, because yeah, it is good that you are developing now, but once you push the code to GitHub repo or any other Git repository, then you also have to make or it is similar to package JSON, like what kind of packages you have installed on your environment, or are required for these Lambda functions. So we have created a requirement txt file, which basically takes care of the packages that are needed for this folder. So next we are going to install the Boto 3, and now I'm going to install Boto 3, and which is AWS SDK. So as I said, this SDK is present on Lambda function environment, but this is not present on your local machine. So you would need it in order to debug it, or in order to run your Lambda functions locally. So now this package has been installed, and in order to make sure that you can just go here inside VNV, and inside lib you can see Boto 3 and a couple of dependent packages are now installed. So I will close this. Now I will run one more important command, freeze. So it will list out all the local packages, pip Python packages are which are installed. So you see I get a couple of packages, and this is the format. Pip freeze basically list all the packages in a format which is suitable for requirements.txt. So what we are going to do is we are going to run this command, and we are going to generate a requirement.txt which is already there, but oh, no, I don't want to do it, which is already there. So it will be overwritten. So you see it updated all the packages, but you see there are a lot of packages which are Python Boto 3 dependencies, so we don't have to keep it. So if I remove it, and then that is also fine, and I can kind of prove you, but I don't want to waste time there. So if you just remove this v vnv and create a new virtual environment, and then you run this command, which is pip install all the packages from requirement.txt, and that is only having Boto 3, then also all these packages will be installed. So we don't have to maintain a lot of packages here in requirement.txt. You have to be little mindful. All right, so the boto 3 is installed. Now this has to be resolved, but it is not getting resolved, so we'll see. And now we have to point, because earlier this Python Visual Studio Code is, the Visual Studio Code was referring to a different Python interpreter, but we have to change the interpreter, and now we have to select the interpreter which is present in our virtual environment. So I will select this one, and once I do that, this issue will be resolved. So now this IntelliSense issue is also resolved. Now, okay, I will run this, and I will run this with F5, and it should work. And this time I have to kind of provide an event. So I will first have to prepare the event. So I will go here, and I will copy the event from here, and again I will go here, and will basically, okay, I have to first compact this session. So minify or compact, this is now compact, and then I will go back on JSON escape, and I will just click escape. Okay, that is already escaped, so this is fine. And yeah, okay, so now if I press F5, now one more thing, how you might be thinking, how would it work, because boto 3 would require AWS credentials. So there are two ways. Either you can create an AWS profile on your local, default profile will be used by default, and otherwise you can also create environment variable here, sorry, yeah, here, env, and you can provide those AWS access key and all those things here, so that they will be used when by boto 3 if you have not configured the profile. Since I have configured the profile, I hope that it should work, but we'll see. Now I'm pressing F5 and will provide the event, which is this. And now I would like to change the sample file name little bit, sample1.txt, and I will hit enter, because sample file is already there. So I got the breakpoint, and I got, this time I'm getting error. I don't know why. I mean, this is weird, but I have seen this kind of issues earlier as well. So now I will sample, okay, sample underscore one, and okay, this got added. Now I will hit enter. Oh, what is the issue? Let's try again. Sample, okay, let me remove the p, sam.text. I'm not adding anything but just removing. If it is still complaining, then we'll try again. Okay, it is still complaining, so I will run it again. I will just add double quotes which I was adding earlier, and this time I would add one before after sample, and let's see if it works or not. Oh, okay, let me just pause the video and fix this issue, and then I will get back to you. All right, so I have figured out the issue. So the issue is kind of weird again, I would say. So when I was just copying this and pasting it here in the arguments, so it was, these spaces are creating problem. This is the content of the file. So for the time being, I'm just removing these spaces, and this is the content. I am not spending time how to fix this issue, but that those spaces should also be taken care, and kind of we have to find a fix. But to continue, I am just removing it, and I will just create a sample1.txt file to show you how we can create a file and debug this. And now I will press enter, and the breakpoint will hit here, and this should work fine now. And now this is the boto 3 client, and you see the response, and the response is seems good. So yeah, it is successful, and we can verify it in our Python bucket. So you can see the simple one text file is created. So that's fantastic. We have debugged AWS SDK dependent Python package or Python Lambda functions from our local machine, and also deployed it. So, um, sorry, also tested it. Now the time to test it, also kind of how to deploy it on Lambda function or on AWS Lambda function. So again, as I said, this time again you can just create this a zip file of this generate file function and put that upload that zip file on AWS Lambda console and update the handler name. So once you do that, everything would be good, because you don't have to upload the Boto3 package which is present here, because Boto3 is also part of the runtime. All right, so now we are done with the two types of Lambda function, and now we are heading towards the last part, which is our creating a Python Lambda function with AWS SDK and third-party dependencies, right? And which is mostly used because it is not like you don't have any third-party dependencies. Sometimes you would have third-party dependencies, and uh, yeah, and you have to work with that. You have to create a Lambda function. So how to work with that kind of functions? So that kind of functions we cannot kind of uh, create on AWS console, because we have to upload the dependencies as well as part of the deployment package. So that's why we are ignoring, or we are not going to create a Lambda function directly in console, because that won't work. So here we are going to develop locally. So what kind of function that I'm going to build in this case will create a Lambda function uh, which we will provide a URL of an image, and the function will basically use this pillow library to kind of generate a thumbnail and of that image, and will store it in AWS S3 bucket. So it will basically use this pillow, which is an external dependencies, and also use Boto3, which is AWS SDK dependency. So I will just go here and kind of install this payload package, and I will also copy this install request package. So that is installed, and this is also installed. All right. I will clean it and I will run pip freeze, and I will copy these. So you can see multiple packages are there, but I don't need multiple packages. I will copy all these, but later we'll remove. So I just need Boto3, which is already there, and apart from the Pilo, which I just installed, and apart from that request, yeah, this one. So I will keep these three packages, and rest I will delete. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new file, generate thumbnail function, which is I will place here. So I will create a new file here, generate py, and I will copy this code which I generated from Amazon Q. So this is the entire function generated by Amazon Q. So what it is doing, it is basically again a Lambda handler, and which is basically get this kind of event. We have to pass this kind of event where we'll pass an image URL and the image key, and it will basically download the image from this URL. So what it is doing, it is kept getting the URL, it is requesting, it is using request module to download it, then it will use the pillow library and will generate thumbnail and will store it using, so it will use upload file object, where this upload file object, s3, and s3 is okay, it is using this Boto client here, and then it is using upload file object and uploading it in bucket, and bucket name should be part of the environment variable. So for local debugging, what we are doing going to do is we are going in our VS Code launch.json, and here I will just put this thumbnail bucket, and here I have to provide the name of my bucket, which is this. Okay, I will just formatter is not configured anyway. So now I'm going to run it. So I it will use my default profile credentials to kind of upload to S3 bucket, and in order to debug it again, I have to use that main kind of code, so which is in yeah. So, so I will just go here and add that code. Sorry, will add this code. Now code is added, and this is already imported, so no problem. And I have to kind of create another mm, event, a proper escaped event from this. So I will go JSON formatter and will remove these hashes, and first format beautify, then minify and compact. And you might be thinking this is quite tedious, but yeah, this is how it is as of now. JSON escape, and then I will go here and escape, and this is escaped. Okay, now I will just press F5, but I will put a breakpoint here and here, and I will just put it inside this. And oh, okay, yeah, sorry, it is not inside the function, it is just here. Now hopefully it should work. Oh, it is broken, and I don't want it to be broken, but I have to fix it. I mean, this is weird. I mean, it was working when I tested it earlier. So let me again pause the video and get it fixed. So yeah, I kind of found the fix. So what I did, I just passed it, and I am not encapsulating this entire JSON object in double quote. So I'm just passing it as it is. And once I do it, once I hit enter, I observe that inside the aux it is looking like this, and it is working. So if I go in handler, I see this code, and let me kind of execute this code. So you see the bucket name has been read from the launch.json file. We have specified the environment variable there, and now the file is uploaded, and let's see. So if I go in Python bucket, so you see the thumbnail directory has been created and a thumbnail has been created. So if we look at the original file, so this is the original file, and the thumbnail that has been created is which is basically downloaded here, and it is a thumbnail. So this is fantastic. We have created uh, a Python lambda function which is using a Boto 3 as well as a third party dependencies. We deployed it, we debugged it and kind of tested it, and now it is working. Now the time is to deploy this function. So what I will do, I will just remove this part from here, and I have to create a deployment package. And this is the most important part, because in real world function you have to create a deployment package like this. Although you will use CI/CD pipeline, but you have to know the fundamentals. So I will go here and will create a deployment package directory. And what I will do here is basically I have the command already ready. So you have to kind of okay, so what I'm doing is I'm creating another deployment requirement file. And why I'm doing it, so either you can create another requirements.txt file, or you can, for the time being, you can remove the Boto 3 from here. So either is fine. So yeah, I mean, it is better to create a copy of this, and you can name it like this: requirements uh, dot deployment dot uh, requirements deployment txt. And from there you can remove the Boto 3, because we are not going to deploy Boto 3 which is already present there. Then I'm going to run this command, and what this command is basically doing, it is I will show you what it is doing. So it will basically install the packages at this location. Okay, so all the packages which are present in requirement.txt file, it will install in this deployment package directory, sorry, here. So I will run this command, and once these packages are installed, what I will do, I will, okay, the packages are now installed, and if I see, these are the packages that have been installed. Now I will go back and I will also copy this generate thumbnail function file, which is our important file, main file. Will basically paste it here. Now this is our entire deployment package, and I have to kind of create a zip file of this, and I will rename it with this generate thumbnail function. So I have to go and create a new function here, which is our last function, and generate thumbnail. Okay, and the runtime would be Python, and this is good. Execution role, which is one we have created, so we'll select the Python one here, Python, and I will create the function. The next thing I need to do is I have to upload the deployment package that I have created here. So I will just select this path and will upload the file, zip file from here. And here I will go in deployment package, and inside this I will select the zip file, which is having 4 MB of size. So we'll upload it here, and then I have to kind of prepare a function handler URL. So let's see what that will look like. So we'll have a look at here in generate thumbnail function. So this would be the file name. I will select it and the lambda handler. So I will just go here, and this is the file name, and this is our function lambda handler. So this is our handler name, and the file has been uploaded. And if you see the code, so the code is now not editable because they are saying the deployment package of lambda function is too large to enable inline editing. So that is okay, but yeah, I mean, we have shipped our dependencies from our local environment, and now I'm going to update the handler name. Okay, so yeah, the handler name should be updated here, and which is I will press save button. So now everything is good. Now it's time to uh, test this lambda function, which we have deployed from which we have created from local and deployed it from there. So we'll have a look at the event. So this is the event. I will copy this event, and we'll remove these hashes, format it, and now I will remove I will rename this image original image 2. And one more thing I forgot, I need to add a environment variable where we have to provide the bucket name. So we'll just add an environment variable, and which would be similar to this thumbnail bucket, and the value would be this. So now all good for testing. Yeah, this is fine. Now we'll press the test button and it should work fine. All right, it will timed out. uh, okay, so have to update the time out as well, so make it 1 minute and 0 second, and the memory I would kind of increase to 512 MB function memory, and then I will go back and test it. So yeah, it failed, unable to import module generate thumbnail function, cannot import imaging. Why we are getting this a generate thumbnail function? Because that is the file name, and this is our deployment package. Generate thumbnail function is our file. Okay, let me see why it is happening. I mean, ideally it should not happen, but yeah, give me a minute and I will get back to you. So it is failing, and I don't know why it is failing. It worked locally, so let me just search this Google, and I have searched it, but I found it is pretty, I mean, non-issue. A lot of people have faced this issue. So if you see, I mean, this issue is something which is related to this Pilo library, which has a PIL package, which we are getting error for. But again, I mean, I don't want to debug this and get it fixed because one approach is to just upload all the deployment package in Lambda functions, like we did. Like uploaded all these packages as part of deployment package, which is which is brute force approach that we can do. But ideally it is not recommended to upload all the packages along with your main Python file. Instead, it is recommended to create a layer of these packages. So for example, you have 5 functions and you have certain packages that are going to used across all the functions. Then you should bundle all the packages into a layer and then kind of use a Lambda layer, so that every time you don't have to create that much of uh, big size of deployment package of 4 MB or 5 MB. So yeah, that's how you can do it. And regarding this error, I am not sure why I'm getting this error. It might be some issue because this is a known issue and a lot of people are already getting this issue. I have searched it, but ultimately that doesn't stop you from building a package which uses kind of external library. And how you know that what is the process, how you can create deployment package, how you can deploy them. And if you're stuck somewhere, then you can look at the Stack Overflow or Google, and you will find alternatives. And I would recommend you using layers to in such situation. But yeah, ultimately the goal was not to uh, you know um, was not to kind of generate a thumbnail. That was just an example. That's why I choose Pillow library. But you ultimately learned how you can create different types of Lambda functions and how you can debug them on your local machine. So I hope that you have enjoyed this video. And if you have liked this video, then please press like and subscribe my channel for more such interesting video. Thank you very much.